Hi, Gillian. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's so good to be here.
It's so good for you to be here because I have to tell you. Back in November, I was driving home from Toronto and my kids were, doing their thing in the back seat. They were like playing video games and watching their downloaded Netflix shows. And I'm usually an Audible girl, so I listen to audio whenever I'm driving. And I love the drive to Toronto from Montreal because it's about 6 hours. And generally within that time, of course, on 1.5 speed, I can listen to a full book. And so then I decided, you know what, I'm going to go on YouTube. And then all of a sudden, YouTube brought you up, okay, brought your TED Talks up. And I was like, okay, this sounds really, really interesting. And I started listening to your TED Talks, and you were talking about how why is it that we have these things in our closet that we just put off for like the best day? And the perfect
Mhm.
example of that was I had this candle, and then of course you're talking about this candle in the TED Talks. So I had this candle that my sister-in-law gave me, and it is, you could tell it's like one of those gorgeous expensive candles that is
Mhm.
lavender with all these like
Yeah.
wicks, and this is probably a candle that old Sherry, before she listened to your TED Talks, would have kept and just kept and kept and kept until it was the best and perfect special day to bring
Mhm.
this candle out and to actually enjoy the aroma and just light up the room with. And so I listened to your TED Talks, and as soon as I got home, I lit the candle. Jillian, I lit the candle. And so
Amazing.
I absolutely loved it. Such a great TED Talks. And I thought of, oh my God, I'd love to speak with her because she has an abundance mindset. And what she's talking about is this abundance mindset, and the whole world needs to listen to your TED Talks. So, Jillian, welcome to the show. I'm so excited you're here. And before we dive in, just share with us a little bit about your TED Talks. Like, what inspired you to even, I mean, it was super, super popular. You had so many downloads, but what inspired you to share this message with the world?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. And the best thing to hear about is when someone listens to my TED Talk and it springs them into action because that's what I want. And so my TEDx talk, the basis of it is basically this story of I was on vacation in Mexico. I bought a beautiful candle as a souvenir. I brought it home and I thought, this is too nice to light. I'm going to save it for a special day. So I tucked it away in my closet, as we so often do. You were talking about your sister-in-law. And when I finally pulled out my candle to light it, it had melted in the closet. And this totally struck something in me. And I just thought, oh my goodness, I was waiting for the perfect day. And by waiting for the perfect day, I completely missed an opportunity. And I got a motto that day when I was thinking about this. And it was, don't let your candle melt in the closet. And that has really become my motto for so many things. And in my talk, I go on to say, this might be one really small thing of a candle. But, when you think about all the things that we hold on to and save for someday when, where does that end? It can go from a candle to applying for a job to finally getting that fitness routine that you want. Like it can just go on and on with all the things that we hold ourselves back from. And so it's what you're talking about, this scarcity mindset of we hold ourselves back, we think later will be better, and we don't embrace everything that's available to us today and the abundance that's available in our life. And so you were asking what inspired this TED Talk. So my candle really inspired it, and it became a personal life motto for me. Don't let your candle melt in the closet. It really spurred me on. It encouraged me to use my things. And then I realized I saw so many friends and so many people that I knew that were holding on to things. And, it's anything from, remember back in the day when people would cover their couches in plastic, where it's like, oh no, that's the nice living room.
Yes.
We don't sit on those couches. It's so many things. It's the beautiful champagne waiting to be used for over 10 years. And then you open it and it's flat. It's gone bad in the cupboard. And so I saw these things all over and picked up these different anecdotes throughout my life. And I thought, if this has made such a difference in my life, could it make a difference in other people's life? And I think there's something so, this idea of letting our life melt by and letting it slip by really connects with people. And so I thought, let's share this with the world. An opportunity came up to do a TEDx talk, and I pitched this idea, and everyone could relate to it because we all have something. If it's
Mhm.
not a candle, it's high heels. If it's not high heels, it's a nice bottle of scotch. If it's not a nice bottle of scotch, it's anything. Everyone has something that they put on the shelf and think, later, I'll wait, it will be better. And so my whole hope is to just give people permission that you can use and enjoy what already exists in your life. You don't have to wait for a special event or something or kind of a milestone to be reached before you can enjoy your life.
Yeah, and since I've listened to your talk, I have actually been applying that everywhere. And so I go through my closet and I realize, man, I think most of my clothes is on reserve for a better time. And it's so
Hmm.
weird. Like, what does that
Hmm.
mean, a better time? What is that better time? And that's been in my closet for 4 years. Like, when is that time coming?
Yes.
And so now
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna clean in that. I'm gonna clean the house wearing that. And so I've started to do that stuff, and you're always kind of in the back of my mind. And it's so funny when you're talking about some of the things that we keep for special moments. And I remember growing up, our house, the way that we had two living rooms, right? And we
Hmm.
had two dining rooms. And one was for us. So one was for the family, and then one was for the guests. And that was like the
Hmm.
good furniture. And we weren't allowed to go in
Hmm.
there. We weren't allowed to play in there. And it's so funny. And I was always wondering, why are we not allowed to enter these rooms? And of course, we were four kids, so yes, we were playful, and we didn't have all of the plug-in devices that we have today. So we were all over
Yeah.
the place. But we weren't allowed to be in these rooms, and I saw them being used maybe, I don't know, once a month or once every couple months if my parents had people
Hmm.
over. And it's so interesting that the majority of us actually live in the space where I think we don't believe we are worthy enough to
Yeah.
receive, or we're not worthy enough to actually use these things, and it has to be for a better time. And I'm always so curious as to where that comes from. Where do you think that comes from, Jillian?
Yeah. So I think there are two mindsets that really drive this scarcity mindset of I can't use it. And one of them is I am not enough. And
Mm,
so this is the idea that we elevate these items and they become aspirational items. So, like, let's take the clothes in your closet where you buy them and you think, this is a bit nicer than what I normally wear. This is a bit higher end than I would normally purchase. So we then set this benchmark for ourselves of I have to become a certain type of person to qualify for this. So this can be I'm going to make partner at work. I'm going to get a promotion. I'm going to lose a certain amount of weight before I'm allowed to do this. I am going to have a personal accomplishment, like my children will behave in a certain way.
mm,
And so we set these kind of benchmarks for ourselves that we have to qualify for to be able to use these things. But I think what really comes up is that you realize, and often what is really terrible is that it takes a really big life event. So I work in the emergency
mm,
department. I work as a registered nurse, and I saw repeatedly all these people who would come in and none of the things that they came in for were planned. And it takes something that major, and you'll often hear it. People will talk about a divorce, a diagnosis, a death in the family that really made them realize, oh, I don't need to wait for anything. I am enough to use my things right here, right now. And so and then the second mindset is I don't have enough.
mm,
And you can see this in the stockpiling, right? Where it's like, I need five nice dresses to be able to wear the one nice dress because what if I spill on this? What if I ruin this? And I really think that this has been ushered in by older generations where they were taught, there wasn't a lot to go around. Like this, the purchasing and amount of goods that we have nowadays was not the case 50 years ago. And so this mentality of I don't have enough we were raised with. And so, people had been through the Depression, they'd been through world wars. There was this mentality of waste not, want not. There was this idea of a Sunday best because you actually only had one
yeah.
nice outfit, so you needed to save it for Sundays. But that's not the case anymore, right? Like we have garages filled with stuff. We have closets filled with stuff. We have three different types of dinnerware. Like we don't have the same lack of stuff, but we've kept the same scarcity mindset of I don't have enough.
Mhm.
And so often I think it's just realizing you do have enough. If this were to be ruined or spoilt or spilt on, you could replace it. It's
Yes.
not ideal, but you could replace it. And so why not enjoy it and use it now? And it is so interesting. Like when you were talking about, something's been in my closet for 4 years. It really struck me when I went to, declutter and clear out my closet, and I would give away things that I kept in prime condition because I didn't want to ruin them but then I would give them away for someone else to use and enjoy. Like
Yeah.
there were kind of different clues along the way that I was like, okay, so I have this beautiful pair of green suede shoes. I don't want to spill on them. I don't want to wear them in the rain. But when I finally went to get rid of them, I hadn't worn them enough. Like I hadn't even given myself the opportunity to ruin them. And
Mhm.
so I think it's tweaking it and noticing as you go through your home, are there rooms in my house I'm not using? Is there furniture? Is there china? Is there like so many things available that you can recognize, oh my gosh, I'm not using this. And what am I waiting for?
Yeah. Oh, wow. I love that. Yeah. And, as you were speaking and sharing, I was just thinking about how I also think it comes from a place where we don't live in the present moment, right? And I see
Mm,
this a lot around, health and fitness, around the diet mindset. I will love myself when I release X number of pounds.
yeah.
Once I lose X number of pounds, then I'll be happy. Then I'll be healthy. Then I'll be, then I'll attract the right partner. And so we're constantly putting our happiness on the other side of some expectation, which by the way we never
Yes.
meet because we get close to there and then it's still not enough. And then we set another
Yes.
bar and then it's still not enough. And then this not enoughness just perpetuates. I don't think we ever get to that space where we actually are present and realize that everything that we need is right here, right now. Because if we all live in the present moment, like this is my only moment right now,
Hmm.
then I would pull out that thing in my closet. I would light the candle. I would pop open, the expensive champagne. I would use
Yeah,
everything with such love and kindness the way that I would offer it to somebody else.
totally. I completely agree. And I think it's this idea of like things not being in the moment of like, well, no, this moment isn't special enough to light that candle. I have a certain image in my mind of what lighting that candle will be like, right? Like your lavender candle, you're like, the children will be playing
Yeah,
quietly. I will have had a great day at work. Like snow will be gently falling outside the window. I will have just made myself a cup of tea, and like that's when I'll light the candle.
right.
That's never going to happen. Like that perfect situation is never going to happen. And so it's kind of flipping it on its head and saying, can I make this situation better by lighting this candle instead of waiting for that perfect situation?
Hmm.
And I think I think there is a little bit of disappointment in it, or people just like almost like a settling mentality. But actually, I think when the mindset is like, I am enough, I can give myself permission to use my things, I think you start to realize like using your things sends a message to you of like, I am worthy of a good candle. I am worthy of my nice workout wear. I am worthy of like using my nice coffee machine instead of waiting for some other time. So it's funny in that we often wait for something to feel worthy, but I actually find using your stuff helps you to feel worthy.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. And it kind of sort of the whole outlook on my life changed a few years ago when my mom passed away. And kind of what you were saying before, it really takes a tragic event or it takes almost a near
Yeah.
death experience or a big scare like that for you to decide to make massive changes in your lifestyle. And I
Yeah.
hope that anyone listening today doesn't ever have to get to that point. And I hope by listening in today, one person, at least one person is resonating with what we're sharing here because I'll tell you for me, it kind of happened when my mom passed. And so this was in 2019. And it was this understanding, and that's the only word I can really come up with, is this understanding of how
Mm.
finite our time is here. And so
Hmm.
since that moment, I've really shifted around, okay, not caring so much about materialistic things. Anything that I can replace with money, I'm not going to give any emotion to. Not saying that it's
Mm.
not going to be uncomfortable to replace something that breaks or my car or something expensive, but if it's something that I can never get back, like health, like joy, like
Yeah.
something that really deeply impacted me, like the loss of my mother as it relates to joy, right? If I go through something like that, then it's worth my emotional investment. But if it's
Hmm.
if it's something I can replace with money, then I can't give it any of my energy. And so since I've started living my life that way, I'm very okay with things breaking. I'm very okay with using my
Mm.
things, right? Because
Hmm.
replace it. And then that's when I really started seeing the abundance flow. And so to your
Yeah.
point, once you start to feel I am worthy, I am worthy, and I'm worthy, and I start doing everything because I'm actually feeling that worthiness, you'll receive more things to feel worthy about.
Yeah. It's oh, I totally agree. It's almost like you like go to use the nice things and you're like something's gonna happen. Like the
Right.
world is gonna shift because I had it in my mind that like when I use the good china on a random Tuesday, like bad things will happen. And you're like, oh my gosh, it didn't happen. And actually like I actually feel really good about myself. And it like I think that's a huge motivator for me is I don't want people to have to go through the death of a loved one for things to come into perspective,
Exactly.
right? Like no one wants that. But so many people have reached out to me about my message and they say, this really struck me when my grandma passed away and all of her wedding gifts were in a trunk in the attic and her linen was still in the packaging because she never used it. I don't want that to be me.
Mm.
And we don't want it to take a huge life event for this message to be sent home, but but it's so simple, but we still have to overcome so much to be able to say, I'm going to set out the good linen. I'm going to use the hand towels I save for my guests. Like it's these crazy insidious rules that we have for ourselves. I'm going to eat every night in the fine dining room because actually my family is worth it and guests can also eat there. Like I think it's so true that when you do repeated actions, it's like a muscle that you're building.
Yeah.
Or when you say, I can wear any clothes in my closet, honestly, like you can wear a nice dress on a Tuesday, that you realize A, nothing bad happens to you. B, you feel better about yourself. And C, you just feel like you're living and enjoying your life more. So it's not a big change, but it's regularly questioning the rules that we set out about our stuff and about ourselves and just seeing what comes from that.
Yeah, I love that. You know, I started this program just last year. I launched this program, and this year I'll be launching it as a larger course. But this was kind of the beta program, and it's called Making Peace with Food. And it's helping to break the diet mindset. And so another thing listening to your TED Talks was this is exactly what it's about. It's still living in that
Mm-hmm.
scarcity mindset, and how we do anything is how we do everything. And so
Mm-hmm.
essentially over these 6 months, we shift from a scarcity mindset, which was created by dieting, to an abundance mindset. So imagine a
Mm-hmm.
person having tried so many diets and coming to this place where they're super confused about food, and now
Mm-hmm.
starting to emotionally attach certain feelings to food. If I eat this, I'm bad. If I eat this, I'm good. And if I
Mm-hmm.
overeat this, I'm bad. And not learning also how to sit in their emotions, they start to develop out of control eating. So if you think about
Mm-hmm.
it, all right, well, my diet starts on Monday. I'm going to eat the whole cake right now because it starts on Monday. Or
Yes.
if my, son or daughter didn't finish their plate, I'm going to finish it all because, I can't waste food. And so it really is shifting to that abundance mindset that helps us to overcome all of these limitations, all of these different relationships with food. And it's so interesting that it actually can start in the closet, because obviously food is and especially if we've been doing this for so many years, it's going to take some time to master. But if I do
Totally.
start in my closet, if I start with that candle, and then I go through the
Mhm.
clothes and I start to make myself worthy to wear these things and to use these things. I start to
Mhm.
make myself worthy to pay a couple extra dollars to have salad at the restaurant, to leave my plate unfinished and come back to it later, to know that
Mhm.
my fridge is full of abundance and I don't have to finish this now. I can come back later. And it's
Mhm.
amazing how, really, when we start to focus on just that little speck of energy in one aspect of our lives, it starts to magnify and manifest in so many other areas too.
Completely. Yeah. And I think what I love the connection with the diet mentality because it's these rules that have been, that society creates that have been imprinted on us of like, this is how we have to look at food. This is what your food choices say about you. It's the exact same thing with your stuff. This is how you need to look at a fancy candle. Why do we call it fancy? Like, where did that come from? And this is when you're allowed to use it. This is when you're not. Where did these rules come
Yes.
from?
Yes.
And so much of this comes from your thoughts.
Mm.
How do you think about your things? How do you think about food? And what I find really helpful for me is preparing myself with thoughts. So, talking about leaving food behind, I'm worthy of having a salad when I go out. I can take half of this food home if I'm full. Like those are all thoughts. Those are all questioning the rules. And so I find it really helpful to have kind of mantras that I use when I'm thinking about using my things. So my strongest one is don't let your candle melt in the closet. Like that is something that just like triggers me to be like, right, I can use this. Another one is nothing is precious. Like you were talking about, like your relationship with your mom, precious.
Mm.
Our connection with other people, that is the most important thing. Physical objects are not precious. They should not burden us. They should not make us feel bad. And so, really going into your closet and, like, I pause being like, is it a day worthy of a blazer? And I'm like, nothing is precious. If I sweat in it, if I spill on it, like, replaceable. Um,
Love that.
Another one that I use is I am worthy to have and use my nice things. So often we're standing in the store, we convince ourselves, right? Like there's something that happens in that change room. You're like, I am feeling good, I am looking good, like I'm someone who wears blazers now. You get home and you're like, I'll wear it tomorrow. I'll wear it when I get that next job.
Mm.
I'll wear it, and that someday when just comes in. And so saying, Like we convince ourselves we can have nice things, but
Mm-hmm.
now we need to convince ourselves we can use the nice things. And so I think just kind of arming yourself with those really helpful thoughts, kind of like what you talk about with dieting, of just, can I shift the thoughts that I've been given from society? And can I kind of make my own rules when it comes to using and enjoying my things?
Oh, I love that. I love your last mantra too because it's so true. We want to have everything, but it's so
Hmm.
different and separate than using it and actually feeling worthy to use it. So that's amazing. That's really amazing. So Jillian, let's say somebody started to notice and started to resonate with some of the things we're talking about today. Well, first of all, I think they should go and listen to the full TED Talks because it's awesome. And then where would you say they should start? I know we started with the candle talk, but let's say a person's having a hard time and a lot of people do struggle with hoarding and really have a hard time using their things. So
Yes.
what could you recommend as a great starting point? And then how do they build that muscle that you're referring to?
Okay. Okay. I love this. Let's start with I have three categories for looking at your things in your life. And I find it really helpful to just start to notice. So, my first category is the workhorse. So, think of these as the items you always use. Like they are your go tos, they are your old faithfuls. You love them. So you can notice these items, they are always in the laundry, they are always in the dishwasher, they are the shoes that are kicking around the front door, they are the books on your bedside table. Like look around your house and think like, what do I use every week? And start thinking of them as workhorses of like, you are working hard in my life. The second category is show ponies. And I got this from the idea of like, like the show pony where it's like they come out for show season, they get like trotted out, but they're special. They go back to the barn, like they can't get dirty. And so show ponies are those items that never leave the closet, never get lit. They are like they often have dust on them. They are still in the packaging that they came in. So they're clothes with tags on. They are items that still have the packaging around them. They are things at the back of the closet at the they're often in display cabinets, like they're your china, they're your items in your fancy liquor bar, that kind of thing. So start to notice those show ponies. They're the jewelry that is maybe inherited, maybe they're heirlooms, like they're very special. Like you would label these as fancy. And then the third category is out to pasture. And these are the items that are either like that you never use, never plan on using. You maybe used to wear them all the time. And now you're like, ugh, you couldn't catch me dead in that shirt. I've worn it a million times. Or they're the items that you're like, I bought this because I thought I was going to get into Pilates, but I'm never going to do that. And so these three categories, workhorse, show pony, out to pasture, are really helpful to just kind of start categorizing your stuff. So once you've gotten that clear, I want you to focus on your show ponies. Those are the things that like are fancy. You usually really admire them. You think they're so beautiful. And then I would pick one category. So common categories are um, candles, clothing,
Mhm.
jewelry, crafting supplies, notebooks, um, kind of like things that you like beautifying. So like face masks, bubble
Mm,
bath, shower gel,
yes.
think nail polish, like kind of those like nicer items that you kind of like spoil yourself with. And then I have a few strategies that I find work really well. So the first one is choose only one. So, like, choose one candle, choose one necklace, choose one shower gel. Okay. Because sometimes we can just be overwhelmed by how many items we have to use. You're like, I'm going to use all my shower gels. You look under the sink and you're like, oh my gosh, I have 10 bottles. I don't know where to start. I'm going to go back to my bar of soap. Okay. So go into under the sink, pick out just one. The next thing is put it in plain sight. So put it in the shower, put the candle on the coffee table, put the necklace out in plain sight. Like you need to be able to see these items that you want to use. Okay. And then the third thing is pick a time to use it. Like, is it going to be that you light the candle when you have your coffee? Is it going to be that you choose to use the shower gel every morning when you shower? Is it going to be that on Sunday nights you now use your good china? Like, choose a time and just pick it and go with it. Now, one strategy that I have with clothing in particular is to dress things down. So I was in a wedding last summer. I had a bridesmaid dress, and everyone knows bridesmaid dresses are so hard to work into your everyday life.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my gosh, like they chose this color. I'm never going to wear this again. And I was determined. I was like, not this time.
Hmm.
So I wore the bridesmaid dress and I dressed it down. So I put on my favorite scarf. I threw on a casual cardigan. I
Yeah.
paired it with Birkenstock sandals and I dressed it down because often we elevate these items of like bridesmaid dress. I can only wear that at weddings.
Once.
And I
Yeah.
thought, I don't go to that many weddings. I want to use this at work. And so by pairing it with things that you're really comfortable wearing, like a scarf and a cardigan and sandals, you feel more comfortable in this uncomfortable dress,
Mm.
right? So dressing it down is a really helpful one. Um, Another thing is to remove barriers. So when you bring something home from the store and you put it in your closet with the tag still on, your brain thinks of that as a barrier of like, this is
Mm.
special. We don't use this. Everything else is an option, but this isn't. And so go through your home and really look at what has a barrier around it. This could be dry cleaning bags, like that sends a message to your brain that it's special. It can be tags on, even the fact that a candle has never been lit. Like, honestly, light the candle, blow it out. As soon as that wick is no longer white,
True.
you're like, oh, it's an option. So really look through your house of like, what has a barrier around it that signals to me I shouldn't use it? And then finally, I mentioned this already, have a motto. Like you can borrow mine of don't let your candle melt in the closet. There's an author, Gretchen Rubin, and she has a motto, spend out. Like it's
Mhm.
one of her rules. Like she's like, I spend out. It reminds me that like to use the nice things, to open the package of underwear I've been saving, like just to have something to remind you of, I want to use my things and enjoy my things. So that was a lot of strategies, but I hope there's something in there for everyone of just to get started and start looking for those show ponies. What is it in your house that you're holding yourself back from?
Mm. Ooh, I love that. You know the one where you were talking about removing barriers, like everything that you described. I'm like, yep, I do that with some things. Yeah, and certain dresses that I still have, like in that fancy case, waiting for
Yes,
the wedding or waiting for the party. I still have some things in a dry cleaner's bag. I still have some tags on some stuff. So
yes.
100%. And it's so subconscious because I don't even realize that by doing that, I've actually created this. No, there's a future moment for that, and it's not going to be now.
Yeah. And it really does that. Like, it's so hard to overcome of like, I'm going to put that on today and I'm going to cut the tags off. Whereas if that decision has already been made that you're
Yeah.
keeping it, you're like, let's go. Like, put it on.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So let's say you have some stuff in the closet. And I also started doing this too. So every season I go through my closet and I feel better about removing certain items from my closet, even if I somehow felt myself emotionally attached to something because I've had it for a long time or it reminded me of a particular event in my life. And I asked myself, how long have I had this? And when was the last time I've worn
Yes.
this? And so I feel more comfortable sharing it with someone else. Like if it's really in good shape, I'll give it away. Someone else can use it and enjoy it. But do you have a particular time frame that you also share around how long you should hold on to something if you haven't used it yet?
Ooh, okay. So this is when the workhorse. So my goal is that everything in my closet is a workhorse. Like I open the drawer
Yes.
and I should be able to wear everything there. That means it fits. I feel confident in it. I know how to dress it. Like it's so interesting how little things can hold us back. So everything in my closet should be a workhorse.
Yeah.
And for me, that means that I wear it. I've never thought of like a specific timeline, but I would say 3 months is my cutoff. Some people do a year, like it really does vary because, there's different seasons and stuff. But I find too, when I'm kind of talking about like decluttering or moving things on, I find two things are really helpful. The first one is I ask the question, what do I love more? Because often we hold something up and we ask ourselves, do I like it? And often the answer is like, yes, I bought it for a reason. Of course I like it. But then I'm like, well, then why do I skip past it? If I love it so much, why do I not choose it?
Yeah.
And what I now ask myself is, what do I love more? So, for instance, I had a zip up hoodie that I used to wear all the time. It was my workhorse, it was my go to. But I found I wasn't wearing it. And I was like, that's so weird. Why is that? And I asked, what do I love more? And I had bought a new pullover hoodie. I loved it. It made me feel good. It had replaced the use of this one.
Mm.
And so now, when I ask that, it kind of reassures me that I have other items in my closet that I still love, that I still use, and it's okay to let this go.
Mm.
And what really helps me in moving things out of my closet is my focus is on using my things. candles are meant to be lit. Champagne flutes are meant to be drank from. Clothes are meant to be worn. So if things aren't being used, they're not fulfilling their purpose. And I can only wear so many clothes on a regular basis. And so my whole goal for my belongings is that they're used frequently. And if I'm not using them frequently, I want someone else to be able to use them frequently. So if this hoodie is no longer meeting my needs, I want it to meet someone's needs, and those aren't mine. And so I do the Marie Kondo thing where you thank the item for its
Mhm.
service because we have an emotional attachment to things.
Yes.
Like we love our stuff. And so I thank it. I think about all the great memories, and then I really want it to be used and I let it go for someone else to use it.
Mm.
So when I'm thinking about clearing things out, I ask, what do I love more? Because often there's something else you're wearing and loving. And I want it to be used by someone if it's not me.
Yeah, yeah. So well said. So well said. It's also something that I think we can start to implement to clear space for other things to come into our lives, especially if we want some of those
Yeah.
show pony items to become our workhorses. I think we have to clear out some of the workhorse items, and especially if we start noticing that we wear it less, or maybe it could serve somebody else a little bit better, and then start to make everything in the closet usable. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And because there's only so many items that you can use on a regular basis. And so you have to clear out space if you want to use those show ponies. So I think that's perfectly said. Sometimes the workhorses have to go for you to really embrace your show ponies.
Yeah, so great. I loved our discussion today. I'm so connected to you. I love what we're talking about so much. You're just this gorgeous light. You're just this beautiful inspirational share in the world. And I'm so happy that I came across your TED Talks and that we're connecting today and we're having this conversation. And I think everyone again needs to reach out and learn a little bit more about you. So Gillian, where can they go to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's two spaces that you can find me. One is I am on Instagram. That's Jilly Dunn. And I run a weekly challenge. And so I put out every week, I put out a category. And so basically, if this idea really intrigues you, but you don't know where to start, every week I put out a category that says, like, this week we're lighting candles. Join me as we light our candles. And so you can come along and use hashtag choose to use. And it's just the idea of building a community of people who are choosing to use their things and feeling encouraged. And I give tips and tricks of how to kind of overcome the barrier of using your things. And the second place is I have a blog. So that's at gilliandunn.ca. And on this blog, I talk about why do we save our stuff? What are strategies for using our stuff? What if I'm running into mental roadblocks or physical roadblocks? And so, really, just helping. I find my TEDx talk really ignites people for they want to change this, they agree with this mentality. And my blog is how to change this and how to move forward. So I love connecting with people on there. You can find me on both those platforms.
Amazing, Gillian. I love this conversation. And so before we conclude it today, is there anything else you want to share? Any other insight you want to share with the audience?
I would love to say that the world tells you what you need to buy and has started to tell you what you need to declutter, but no one tells you how to use your things,
Mm.
how to enjoy your life. And so I just really want to tell your audience that you are worthy of having nice things and using those nice things. And I really hope that this message can meet them where they're at and realize that using the candle and using the good china really can make a difference in their lives.
Amazing, Gillian. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. This has been wonderful.